is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. And whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemy, of the things trust I put all in thee. Believe you got the world in your hand. You bless me, Lord, I know I can stand.
Show me the way, Lord.
I will be faithful, for I am desolate and afflicted. Lord, show me the way.
Then I want to say to the people that are watching us live on the internet, good afternoon. And as always, it is good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. We're going to get right into this lesson. The Lord caused me to put this lesson together years ago because I said it have to be something real specific or with some real meat on it to let you know that there are certain conditions that must take place before the Lord come back and before Israel is returned. So there's a few words changed in this lesson, but the title of this lesson is Jesus cannot return, nor Israel be gathered before the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. So if people tell you that Israel is back, the Jews are back in the land, you should be able to go over there and see Jesus. You understand? And plus, there are certain events that must take place, sisters and brothers, before Israel as a people can go back. Now we're going to start with the promise that God made to Abraham, because God told Abraham what's going to happen to his seed. And we're just going to hit a few things down through the generations, because we're going to bring you to this day. I mean, to this day. We're going to put some things on the table that has never crossed your mind. And some things that's happening now, maybe once you look at these, it might put something on your mind. Because this is for real, sisters and brothers. We're not feeling, this Bible is no fairy tale. It is not written just to make you feel good. It is written to make you understand what's going on so you can save yourself. Right. So we're going to start with the promise that God made with Abraham. We're going to start in Genesis, the 15th chapter. Genesis chapter 15. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. 15 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward.
Go ahead.
And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eleazar of Damascus?
He said, look, you say you my exceeding reward, but what will you give me? I don't even have a child. And I got this servant in my house. That's the one that I'm going to leave whatever I have to. Go ahead and read.
And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir.
Now, he's not Abraham's seed. He's somebody else that's born in the house by a stranger. He going to be my heir. Go ahead and read.
And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir.
Go ahead.
And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be.
Now, ain't that something? That a man don't have one child, but he said, look at the heavens, see all the stars. He said, your seed is going to be that plentiful. Go ahead and read.
And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness.
Now, because Abraham believed in the Lord and believed what the Lord said, God counted that to him for righteousness. You know, if you believe God, then he will count it to you for righteousness, because you know if you believe him, you're going to do what he said. Go ahead and read.
And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it.
Go ahead.
And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it?
He said, I'm going to give you this land inherited. You don't know why. Go ahead and read.
And he said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old.
Well, we're going to skip down. We're not going to get off into that. Let's skip right on down to verse 13. He said, I'm going to give you this land to inherit it. I'm going to give it to you and your seed. Verse 13, go ahead.
And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
So he told him, now look, your seed going to be like the sands of the sea. And your seed also, because he's talking to Egypt here, going to be in a land for and they're going to in your enemy's land, and they're going to put you in slavery and afflict you for 400 years. This, sisters and brothers, we taught, not we, but the Israelites taught and the Muslims taught that this 400 years was talking about the 400 years of captivity in America. But through the scripture, I beg to differ, because Abraham said something here that we got to pay attention to. Let's keep reading. What verse?
14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
And he said, that nation I'm going to judge. And once I judge them, they're going to come out with great substance. But he said, that nation, sisters and brothers. But the Lord said he was going to scatter Israel all over the world. So what the Lord going to do? Is he going to deliver Israel that's here in the United States of America, and everybody else is going to stay in captivity? See, we have too many things that don't fit. But go ahead and read.
15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace.
Thou
shalt be buried in a good old age.
Go ahead.
But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again.
But in the fourth generation, that's the fourth generation from Abraham. He said they're going to come here again. Go ahead and read.
For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full.
Why is it that he even mentioned the Amorite? Because the Amorites are part of the people whose land that he is going to give to Israel. That he gave to Israel. He said, but look, I've given them time to fulfill their sins or whatever they're going to do.
Yes, sir.
So the Lord is like that. He give everybody time. Just like we right here, these are the times of the Gentiles. So now, once they fulfill, then the Lord said, I'm going to bring you back. But he said, when am I going to do it? In the fourth generation. Fourth generation. So the reason we used to teach this in America, because Israel, these brothers over here thought that we was the only Israelites on the planet when this first started. And now we have this new group, still have all the Israelites scattered all over North America and South America and in Canada. They named everybody. But if you went and looked at the signs that God gave you, they could not be. But to show you this now, that Abraham said in the fourth generation, the Lord told Abraham in the fourth generation, that is the fourth generation from him. Now let's go and count us a few generations, because we need to deal with this. But before we get there, sisters and brothers, I want to show you. This nation that the Lord was talking about was Egypt. Joseph went out into Egypt, became the viceroy of Egypt, brought his family down into Egypt. But then Joseph died. Israel was riding high for a minute. Joseph died. And the new Pharaoh didn't know nothing about Joseph. Only thing he knew is that these Israelites have a lot of babies. We got to do something about it. Let's go into Exodus, the first chapter. Because this is Abraham's seed that the Lord was talking to him about. Exodus chapter 1. Because I kind of want to just walk you down through history a little bit. Now we're going to start with this new Pharaoh that didn't know Egypt. Exodus 1 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob.
Go ahead.
Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher.
Go ahead.
And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already.
So now it's talking about the seed of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So it was 70 souls. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation.
Now, Joseph was the one that went down there, sold by his brothers to the Egyptians. And sold actually to the Arabs, and then the Arabs sold him to the Egyptians. And then the Egyptian, the one that he was sold to, his wife tried to get Joseph to lay with him, and he wouldn't do it, so she lied on him and got him put in prison. But Joseph told some dreams, was promoted, first to a trustee in the prison, and then eventually he told Pharaoh his dream, and Pharaoh put him over all the kingdom of Egypt. But now, what happened was Joseph died during the time of his 400 and something years. This guy didn't know Joseph. Go ahead and read.
7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them.
Go ahead.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
Now we went out there, 70 people that came out of Jacob, and we had so many babies in 400 years, they said they're more and mightier than we are. Because we can have some babies. That ain't changed. So we got to do something with these people. Skip down to verse 11 and go ahead.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burden. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses.
So all these cities you see, you look in history and see that was built in Egypt, that was built by your foreparents, Israel, and when they was in slavery. Skip down to verse 13 and read it.
And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
I mean, they really put some pressure on them. And what happened, sisters and brothers, they was down there until his 400 years had expired. A little over 400 years, 430. But in the meantime, they was in child slavery, and the Lord sent Moses. Said, look, tell Pharaoh to let my people go. But he told Pharaoh, he is not, Moses, but Pharaoh is not going to listen to you because I want to lay my hand on Egypt. Because the Egyptians had really, really dogged Israel out. So people that look just like you. The reason I know they look just like you, because Moses passed as Pharaoh's grandson. So in the meantime, because of what they did to Israel, the Lord brought 10 plagues up on Egypt. I mean, he destroyed Egypt, and we're going to deal with the last plague. So let's go into Exodus, the 12th chapter. We're going to deal with the last plague that he brought up on Egypt. And in the meantime, he had been separating Israel from the plagues to show the Egyptians that, look, I'm going to make a difference between you and my people. Exodus 12, and let's start at verse 1. Exodus 12 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Go ahead.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
So the Lord picked the first month for Israel, and he said, what I'm going to do, and I want y'all to get a lamb. Everybody get a lamb according to the household, because I don't want you to leave none of this lamb. Because the Lord is getting ready to do something here in Egypt, and he wanted to separate Israel again. But he put it in Israel's hand. In other words, if Israel believed God, they would be delivered. If they didn't have faith in God, they wouldn't be delivered. Skip down to verse 5 and go ahead.
Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year.
Go ahead.
Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goat. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month.
Now this lamb represents Jesus, sisters and brothers. Lamb of the first month. Yeah, Jesus was the firstborn to his mother. It had to be perfect. He said, I want you to put it up on the 10th day of the first month and keep it up till the 14th day of the 7th month. Go ahead and read.
And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper door post of the house, wherein they shall eat it.
Now I want you to get this lamb, and I want you to put it over the doorpost of your house and the side post. Because the Lord is telling you, you can do it if you want to. But if you don't, then you don't have no faith in me. But why do he want you to put this blood over your doorpost? Skip down to verse 12 and let's see. Go ahead and read.
For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
I will pass through Egypt and smite all the firstborn in Egypt. Go ahead and read.
Both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord.
Go ahead.
And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses wherein ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this is why I say, sisters and brothers, everybody that claims to be a Christian should keep the Passover. Yes, sir.
Because this lamb represents Jesus, and the blood represents his blood that was shed for us.
Yes.
And if we all had to be saved according to our righteousness, nobody would be saved. Right. Because every one of us is committed to sin at one time or another. And the ones that haven't committed to sin have not got grown yet. That's why Jesus is called the Holy One of Israel. So what you do, just like the people was hid under the blood in Egypt, so are we that are the original Christians are hid under the blood of Jesus. That's why I never could understand why is it that Israel couldn't understand what this lamb represented. So he said, when I see the blood, I'm going to pass over your house. That's what Passover means. When he see the blood of Jesus that is hiding you and your sinful carcass, he's going to pass over you. And that's what it's all about, sisters and brothers. But now he's coming through there. Skip down to verse 29. Verse 29. And go ahead.
And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon.
Go ahead.
And all the firstborn of cattle.
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt. For there was not a house where there was not one dead.
That means that no Egyptian had any faith in Moses' God. They had to know about it. Because earlier, some of them got their cattle in so the lightning wouldn't kill them.
Right.
But they probably, oh, this is too much. How is blood going to save us? You understand what I'm saying? This is one of the biggest secrets in the world of would-be Christianity. That you are saved by your faith. But people don't understand that. They think when you get faith, you don't have to do no works. But when you have faith, that make you do some work. Don't you think it was work for them to kill a lamb and to roast it and get the blood in a pail and get some hyssop and go and paint it over the house? Ain't that work? But what if they had not done any work? That means they didn't have no faith. So they didn't put the blood up and they died in their sin. Don't you understand? See, this is why I can't understand why Israel can't understand who Jesus is. So he came through there and he smote everything and said there was not a house in Egypt that there was not dead. Go ahead and read.
31.
Not one dead. Go ahead and read.
And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord as ye have said.
Now he said, get on out of here, because after a while, they had really got tired because the Lord had destroyed Egypt. So I want you to get out of here and serve the Lord as you have said. Now skip down to verse 41. Verse 41 and read it.
And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass, that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt.
I mean, everybody, not one Israelite was left in there, sisters and brothers. Not one. But that is what Abraham was talking about in that fourth generation. They're going to come back to the land. So they were down there for 430 years. Somebody tried to argue the point. I said, there ain't no other way, no other place in history that you can place this. For all of Israel was going to be enslaved in one nation. And all Israel was going to be brought out of one nation. And the Lord destroyed that one nation when he brought all them plagues down. There ain't no other place in history that this can fit. Can't fit American history because we are in this hemisphere. Israel is in all hemispheres. Because the Lord said he's going to scatter you into all nations under the sun. So Israel is scattered and can't nobody deal with you. But anyway, the Lord said he's going to bring them back in the fourth generation. Ain't that what we read? Fourth generation from Abraham. So let's run these generations. Let's go into Matthew, the first chapter. See, that's why you have to let the Bible talk to you, sisters and brothers, because men have their own opinion. And sometimes the word changes with whoever's you listening to. But when you read the Bible and you read it in the same place, it's going to say the same thing all the time. I don't care how you read it. Some people say, well, let me read that again. Go ahead. Once you get through, you want to read it some more? It's going to say what it's going to say. You understand? Matthew, the first chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. We're going to run Jesus' lineage. Go ahead and read.
The book of the generation of Jesus Christ, the son of David,
go ahead.
The son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac begat Jacob.
Go ahead.
And Jacob begat Judas and his brethren.
Now, we can run that on down, but we're not going to run it. We're going to get right on down to how many generations there was from Abraham to Jesus. Skip down to verse 17. Verse 17 and read it.
So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations.
All the generations from Abraham to David is 14 generations. Then that just went by that fourth generation right there, didn't it?
Yep.
But we still here. Go ahead and read.
And from David until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations.
What's that? 14 and 14, 28, right?
Yep.
We still here. Go ahead and read.
And from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations.
How many generations is that? That's 42 generations, sisters and brothers. So then, this could not have been the time when Abraham was talking about when he said in the fourth generation they're going to come back here to this land. See, because the Lord is not giving, everybody's trying to deal with time. That's why all of the Israelites was messed up. Because they're looking at 400 generations. I mean, it's 400 years in America. Muslims walk around 400 years. Well, why is that? I'm talking about the black Muslims. Why is it that they talking about the 14 generation like the Israelites are talking about it? Because the black Muslim got that from Israelites. But now we are way beyond 14 generations, aren't we? And we are still here. So now we see that we can't calculate it from misunderstanding the Bible. Then what we got to do is live by signs. People tell me all the time, well, Brother Boy, what do you think this is? I don't think it. Well, how many years you think we got? I don't know. Well, what you going to do? I'm going to watch the signs. This is the generation that should watch the signs more than any other generation. Because this thing is right on top of us, sisters and brothers. And I'm not speaking out of emotion. I'm talking from prophecy. So here's a sign that Paul gave you here. Let's go look at this sign. And most people that's been in church all their life don't even know what this is talking about, but they all talk about Paul's writing. 2 Thessalonians, the second chapter. He gave you a sign, but I don't hear none of the Christians talking about it. That's why I use the word original Christian, sisters and brothers, because the original Christian was Israelites. And that's one of the things that shocks the whole world. When I said, well, what are you, brother? I'm a Hebrew Israelite. Hebrew Israelite? You don't believe in Christ? Wait a minute. I'm the one that told the rest of the world about Christ. The book says he came to his own. It says own received it not, but he didn't say it went somewhere else. He said, but those that received him, he gave them power to become sons of God. Most people don't understand that. But all these prophets was Israelites. All of the apostles was Israelites. Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, was an Israelite. And when they was called Christian first in Antioch, there was not one non-Israelite in the church. And you're going to tell me, Hebrew Israelite, that I don't know Christ? I don't know what book you've been reading. If I didn't bring him to you, you don't know him. And after 70 A.D., when Israel got scattered and got lost, Gentiles been teaching you. And the Christ that you know about is what Paul called that other Christ. You know why? Because Israelite didn't bring him to you, sisters and brothers. Now let's go into 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter. Because here, sisters and brothers, in 2 Thessalonians, you know how people say all the time, well, you know, Christ can come any day. And he can come tomorrow. He can come next week. No, he can't. He can only come when the prophets say he can come. You mean, Brother Bull, you going to tell me the prophet have rulership or determination when Christ has come? Of course. Who do you think told the prophets that he was coming? He did. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, and verse 8. Verse 1, rather, and verse 1. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, and verse 1. Okay, read it.
Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him.
See, this is what people don't understand. We ain't going to be gathered to him. They just think about this, just talking about the revelation, the resurrection. No, sisters and brothers, this is talking about more than the resurrection. It's talking about the gathering of his people, and we're going to show you that. So we beseech you, concerned about the coming of Jesus Christ and our gathering together unto him. Go ahead and read.
That ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us.
So I don't want you to be shaken every time some little flip-flop come on TV or anything else. Because there's certain things that must happen before he comes. Go ahead and read.
As that the day of Christ is at hand.
So don't believe it. Go ahead.
Let no man deceive you by any means. For that day shall not come.
For that day shall not come.
Except there come a falling away first.
Falling away from what? The truth, sisters and brothers.
Yeah.
First thing we had is the falling away. The Lord said the 7th day is his Sabbath day. Then people say, well, you know, Sunday is the Christian Sabbath day. Wait a minute. When I went to Luke, the 4th chapter, it said, as his custom was, Jesus went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day. And as I remember reading, he said, I am also the Lord of the Sabbath day. Yeah. So what is this first day of weekend?
Folly.
So he said, there have to be a falling away first. Nobody knows what time Jesus was born. So they put a pagan holiday in the place. Nobody knows when he died and rose because don't nobody read the book. So there's been a big falling away first. God said, I'm going to put the kingdom on the earth. Everybody believe that you're going to heaven. God tells you that he created a lake of fire for Satan and his angels, and he's going to put him in there to punish him. They're telling you that Satan is in the ground right now, barbecuing the mean and evil people. But then they turn around and tell you that's going to be a judgment. If there's going to be a judgment, then who is there to judge? Being that everybody's in heaven looking down and the bad one's in hell being barbecued, who is he going to judge? If that ain't a falling away, then what is it, sisters and brothers? Go ahead and read.
And that man of sin be revealed.
And that man of sin be revealed? Go ahead.
The son of perdition.
The son of destruction. How can we know? Will we know who this man of sin is? Go ahead and read.
Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God.
He opposes and exalted himself above all that is called God. Go ahead.
Or that is worship. So that he as God.
So he as God.
Sitteth in the temple of God.
Sitteth in the temple of God. Go ahead.
Showing himself that he is God.
Showing himself that he is God. Now you don't know nothing about that. Who is this man of sin? Where is the temple of God going to be built? Who is going to go and say that he is God? See, you got to build a temple in Jerusalem first. That's where the holy and most holy. We're going to do some more on this later. Then this man going to leave Rome, and he's going to go and they're going to install him here. Them 10 nations that's running all of Western Europe, go install him now. And everybody going to say, Christ is back. Paul said, don't believe that. Because certain things have to happen. Go ahead and read what verse?
5. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things. And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time.
See, this is the advantage of knowledge.
Yes.
He said, now I told you about this guy. I told you what he's going to do. I told you where he's going to sit. So when you see that happen, in the time when this is fulfilled, then you will know. Paul wrote about this.
That's right.
Everybody else is wondering, and we saying, by time. We waiting. Everybody's wondering what's going to happen, but we waiting. We know what's going to happen. Go ahead and read.
7. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way.
See, Paul was in the Roman Empire, and that's when this thing really started in the Roman Empire. He said, so it's already working. Go ahead and read.
And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth.
The wicked going to be revealed with the Lord going to consume with the spirit of his mouth. Go ahead and read.
And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
So when is he going to be taken out? Only when Jesus comes, sister and brother.
That's it.
Nobody pays no attention to this. Only when Jesus returned, not a day before. So Paul says, so no matter if somebody writes you a letter, if you got some guy like me, a holy guy, tell you, give you time before this thing happens. Or if you hear a spirit, maybe the Holy Ghost talking in your ear. Until you see this, don't believe it. Now let's go into Romans, the 11th chapter. Because the Lord has put this thing here, sisters and brothers. And ain't nothing going to change. Because Paul said this thing started. See, Paul was in the Roman Empire. And when this thing started to take place. And they started then, well, you know, God done cast the Jews off. No, that's not the case. Romans 11. And let's start reading at verse 1. Romans 11 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
I say then, have God cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
Now that's what people are saying now. Well, you know, see, the Lord done cast the Jews off now. See, the church is dealing with it. Who do you think the church is? Israel. He said, have the Lord cast away his people whom he foreknew? God forbid. Paul told you this, that I am of the seed of Abraham and of the tribe of Benjamin. Most people think Paul was a Gentile. Go ahead and read.
God have not cast away his people which he foreknew.
Go ahead.
Would ye not what the scripture saith of Elias?
Go ahead.
How he maketh intercession to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life.
That's Elijah, sister and brother. Because Elijah jumped up and killed 400 of Jezebel's prophets. No, Jezebel was a priestess. She wasn't a streetwalker. And so Jezebel sent Elijah a letter. Them prophets that you killed, this time tomorrow you're going to be where they are. This guy panicked and ran. And God retired him. Because he said, look, they didn't kill your altar, dug down your altar, and then kill all your prophets. She killed a lot of God's prophets. And I'm the only one that's left. Now they're trying to kill me. Go ahead and read.
4. But what saith the answer of God unto him?
Go ahead.
I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal.
Not been converted, that have never bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Go ahead and read.
Even so then at this present time also, there is a remnant according to the election of grace.
So he let you know in every generation, I have chosen, because we didn't do nothing to be chosen. I have chosen to put somebody's spiritual eyes on in every generation.
Yes.
No matter what generation comes, there's somebody that knows what's going on. Skip down to verse 7. Go ahead and read.
What then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for.
Go ahead.
But the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded.
So he tell you in every generation, I have some people that I have elected to put their eyes on. But the rest of Israel, I blinded. That's why I have blinded. That's why when you go out and tell one of these brothers or sisters, you're a Hebrew Israelite, oh, no, I'm African American. But somebody always know. But Paul wanted to let these Romans know because they are the only ones that he warned not to try to take this thing from Israel. But look what he told them. Blinding is part. If blinding is part has happened, that means somebody's seed on it. Skip down to verse 25. Verse 25 and go ahead.
For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceit.
I don't want you to be ignorant. He's talking about the Romans. These are Gentiles he's talking to.
Yes.
That you be ignorant of this matter, and you're wise in your own conceit. Go ahead and read.
That blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in.
That blindness in part. So if part of them are blind, that means you got part of them that see, don't you?
That's right.
Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Yep.
Some people say, well, you see, that means that the Lord gave a time, so the amount of the quota of the Gentiles is going to come into the church. No, that ain't what that's talking about. That's come from some Gentile. He said, until the time of the Gentile be come in. Not the quota of the Gentiles be come in. So the Lord gave the Gentiles time to rule. Now this is telling me that until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, Israel cannot go back to the land. Just like he told Abraham, they're going to go in the fourth generation because the Amorites have some more time to sin. He gave them their time. When their time was up, their time was up. So now let's look at what Jesus said when he was coming to Jerusalem. Let's go into Luke the 19th chapter. See, this is the thing about knowledge. You know what's going on, sisters and brothers. Jesus knew what's going on, and those of us who the Lord have put the spiritual eyes on, we know what's going on. And it grieves us. Don't nobody want to listen to it. Over the years, I used to wonder what it meant when the prophets and John used the word, I'm just a voice crying in the wilderness. But I found out, you're crying in the wilderness, that means don't nobody hear you. We teaching, don't nobody hear. I was a Baptist born, and when I die, I'm going to be a Baptist gone. I can say that because I used to be a Baptist. That's a nice little slogan. But we don't want to live by slogans, do we? So Jesus coming up on Jerusalem, and he's looking at this, and look what happened here. 19, and start reading at verse 41. 41, go ahead.
And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, if thou hast known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. But now they are hid from thine eyes.
See, that's why he said they're blinded. He said, if only you had known. First thing, they got blinded to the truth before they got blinded to who they were. If only you had known the peace that you could have had. But you didn't. You refused it. So now you can't see it. Go ahead and read.
For the days shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side. And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
Look, this is recorded history here. We're going to go in the atlas of the Bible and read this. He said, if only you had known what your peace should be. But the day going to come when your enemies going to cast a trench around you, and they're going to lay you even with the ground, you and your children within it. You know when that happened? 70 AD. Who did it? The Roman generals Titus. See, this is what I tell people all the time. You got all these other books that say so many things that you try to put over the Bible, but you can't go and find no history that you can prove by. But this Bible got proof all down through the history.
Yes, sir.
So when you tell me there's a problem with that, I got a problem with you. Because you are speaking from a position of non-proof. You didn't investigate it, because if you had investigated it, you wouldn't make such a statement. So let's look at when this happened. This is Atlas of the Bible. Go ahead.
Page 201. In 68, the Roman commander launched a methodical campaign to isolate Jerusalem. The overthrow and suicide of Emperor Nero brought operations in Judea to a temporary halt, as Vespasian prudently withdrew to test the imperial winds.
See, Vespasian was the general that was assaulting Jerusalem. That was his job. But you know, when Nero died, you know, the one that fiddled while Rome burned, that's if you know any kind of history. Vespasian, which was assaulting Jerusalem, given the task to take Jerusalem down, he quit. Right. Put his son in charge and went back to Rome because he said, hey, I got a chance to become emperor. And which he did. Go ahead and read.
Eventually, he himself was declared emperor. Sailing for Rome in the spring of 70, he left his capable son Titus in charge of the campaign against Jerusalem. The walls enclosing the temple of the upper and lower cities were the most formidable barrier of all. Postponing an all-out assault, Titus turned to starvation tactics. A certain amount of food had been smuggled into the city almost nightly during the siege.
Now look, when Vespasian went back to Rome, he left his son Titus in charge. Titus saw that it was hard to penetrate them walls in Jerusalem and get to the holy city. So what did he do? I'm going to starve them. So what he did exactly what Jesus said he would do. Go ahead and read.
But now the Romans sealed off Jerusalem completely with a wall of their own, made of earth and some 5 miles in circumference.
So what they did what Jesus said, he's going to trench around you. This said made a wall, an earthen wall, 5 miles in circumference around all of Jerusalem. Just like Jesus said. And what happened? Go ahead and read.
From the outset of the siege, those attempting to get through the encircling lines had been caught and crucified. Sometimes the daily executions reached 500.
Now you get people that think that Jesus and the 2 thieves was the only one that crucified on the cross. That was a Roman death symbol. That's why I tell people, why are you wearing a cross? That don't have nothing to do with Jesus. Before Jesus came, they was crucifying people.
That's right.
Because it was a feared death. Jesus, they put nails in his hand because prophecy said they pierced my hand and my feet. But the average person, they was tied up after they done beat them and they got them bleeding and everything. Now you up there living and you got the crows and you got the buzzards and everything taking a shot at you, pecking your eyes out, pecking your nose off. Horrible death. Because it was supposed to put fear in you. What they said, they was crucifying up to 500 Israelites a day. This is recorded history here. Go ahead and read.
The crosses were never bared. Inside the city, starvation and disease claimed a mounting toll.
Go ahead.
Bodies filled the streets and were stacked in houses. Thousands of corpses were thrown from the walls into the valleys below.
Now Titus was doing a job on Jerusalem, sister and brother. This is recorded history here. Go ahead and read.
The surviving rebels made a last-ditch stand within Herod's palace. The battering rams resumed their rhythmic work. When the legionnaires at last broke into this refuge, they found only corpses.
All these people went in there and they starved to death. Because the Romans were some fierce warriors, sister and brother. They did. They went through all kind of changes, but when they come after you. So now, this is what happened. But Jerusalem was what now? Go ahead and read.
Herod's palace and the rest of the upper city were put to the torch. Jerusalem was a city of the dead.
That happened in 7 AD. But then not only did Jesus cry and tell them, he even warned them so they could get out, so that wouldn't happen to them. Right. Let's look at this warning. Let's go into Luke, the 21st chapter, and verse 20. Luke 21 and verse 20. So that's one thing about the Lord. He tell you what's going to happen to you. Then he give you warning so you can get away from it. He always leave you an escape hatch. He always leave the door cracked. But if you don't have no knowledge and don't pay no attention to his word, you don't know it. You don't know it. So now he's letting you know when this is going to happen. 21, and let's start reading at verse 20. Luke 21 and verse 20. Okay, go ahead.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Them armies are the Roman armies. He said, when you see them surrounded by armies, you better know that the destruction of it is near. In other words, get out. Go ahead and read.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Go ahead.
And let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Why is it he told you that? Because if you didn't obey him, you might have been one of them 500 that were crucified a day.
That's right.
He's telling you. See, because the people would sneak food in during the revolution against the Romans. Then some would sneak out. Romans said, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to do what Jesus said. I'm going to track your trench around. They put a circumference around a levee, and they had to dig it out of the ground, so it had to be a trench and a levee, sisters and brothers. All around. So when you sneaked out, when you got up on the hill, they saw you. Oh, there one is. Go get it. He said, so if you're in the city, get out. If you are out of the city, don't come in. Go ahead and read.
22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
See, prophecies had already said this was going to happen. Go ahead and read.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
Go ahead.
For there shall be great distresses in the land and wrath upon this people.
We just read history, what's going on with the people in there, don't you?
Yep.
Now you pregnant, you trying to nurse it, and you can't nurse your child. Where you going to get your milk for? You can't do nothing because you're sealed in. You are starved. That's one of the battle tactics in the old days. They would always hem you in. You can't come out to get no water. You can't get no food. You can't do nothing. So if you got a child, you in trouble. Go ahead and read.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations.
He said, look, there shall be great distress in the land and wrath upon this people, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. Go ahead and read.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
For how long?
Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
Times of the Gentiles is not fulfilled, sisters and brothers. Gentiles still running the world. Who are Gentiles? What we call white folks. That's why you get a Donald Trump can talk peace with a Putin. You know why? Because they both Gentiles. That's what you don't understand. People in Western Europe, Gentile. People in Eastern Europe, Gentile. People in the United States that's running, Gentile. Like the brothers who say, oh, well, America, you know, that's a daughter. She going to have her nakedness discovered, and they're going to take America down. Russia's ears. I said, what you think Russia going to do with you, mister? In that time, Negro. But he said he's going to be led away, and Jerusalem going to be trodden down by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentile be fulfilled. And we are still dealing with it. Now let's go in history and look at this great scattering. Let's go into the last 2 million years. Last 2 million years. Now let's see, because this is the same time, 7 AD. We just getting it from another history book. The Lord said, out of the mouth of two or more witnesses is a fact established. We got it from the Atlas of the Bible. Was that what it was? Yeah. Now we're getting it from the last 2 million years. Both of them are history books. Go ahead and read.
This is page 87. Faith survives the dispersion.
Uh-huh.
The crucifixion of Jesus about AD 30 did not end Jewish resistance to the Roman occupation.
Uh-huh.
In 70, when the country was again in a state of revolt, Jerusalem, the holy city, became the core of the resistance to the Romans.
Uh-huh.
Titus, the son of Emperor Vespasian.
Remember, that's the same title that the other history book told you. And the same Emperor Vespasian, go ahead and read.
Proceeded to lay siege to Jerusalem.
They proceeded to lay siege to Jerusalem. Go ahead and read.
The city fell, and the inhabitants were enslaved in their thousands and dispersed throughout the Mediterranean world.
See, all that they didn't kill, they enslaved and scattered all over the Mediterranean. Where's the Mediterranean world? Mediterranean have two sides on it. They got an African side and they got a European side. Some was in Africa, some was European. They found us on the African side of the Mediterranean. And now they picked us up on the African side of the Mediterranean and scattered us all over here in this hemisphere. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure some of them ships that went to Africa and bought them from the Hamites, some of them had already some of us that were scattered in Europe because they enslaved us everywhere. And the Lord let you know, I'm going to scatter you, and you ain't going to come back until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. In other words, until the time that I have allotted the Gentiles to rule this world. Now let's go into Psalm, the 74th chapter 74. Because it was all laid out, sisters and brothers. It is all laid out. Because people don't understand what is going on. It is all laid out. Psalm chapter 74. That's what I tell people all the time. How you know that's the word of God? I said, because I can go into history. I can read prophecy and go into history and see where it took place. You cannot do that with the Apocrypha. The book of Yasha and Enoch. Yeah, I looks into everything. You don't know the strength of your enemy until you read his battle plan. Right. That's how Patton beat Romney. He beat him and said, I read your book, mister. You told me how to whoop you. Read the book. Psalm 74. Psalm 74, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. 74 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
O God, why hast thou cast us off forever?
Uh-huh.
Why does thine anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture?
They asked the question. This is Israel talking by the mouth of David. Why have you done that? This is actually Jesus speaking for us. But go ahead and read.
Remember thy congregation, which thou hast purchased of old.
Uh-huh.
The rod of thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed. This Mount Zion wherein thou hast dwelt.
He said, remember us. We're the one that you purchased in Egypt. We're the one that you recovered. You redeemed out of Egypt. You dwelt among us. Yeah. Go ahead and read.
Lift up thy feet unto all the perpetual desolation, even all that the enemy have done wickedly in the sanctuary.
So look what they've done in the sanctuary. The enemy come in there. Go ahead and read.
Thine enemies roar in the midst of thy congregation. They set up their ensigns for sign.
And they set up their ensign for sign. We don't have no sign. Israel had signs. Enemy done come in and they done put up their ensign. They run in talking about this flag with the Star of David. See, this is the Israelite flag. How is that so? Because you say you only study the Torah. The Torah is the first 5 books of Moses. David is not in the first 5 books of Moses. So whose star did you have? I know who, but that's another lesson. So we don't have in our sign. All the sign we see belongs to the enemy. Skip down to verse 7. Verse 7 and go ahead.
They have cast fire into thy sanctuary. They have defiled by casting down the dwelling place of thy name to the ground.
Go ahead.
They said in their hearts, let us destroy them together. They have burned up all the synagogues of God in the land.
They have burned up all of Israel, the original synagogues in the land. Go ahead and read.
We see not our sign. There is no more any prophet.
Go ahead.
Neither is there among us any that knoweth how long.
And that's even today. We don't see none of our sign. Where are our prophets? People that's telling the truth. He said, there nobody know how long, even to this day. That's why we watching the sign. I don't know how long, but I know we're in the area. But I don't know how long. That's when the apostles asked Jesus, will you at this time restore the kingdom of Israel? He said, this is only the Father know this. All we can do is watch the signs. So we have been cast out. And the Lord said we're going to be out for a long time. Let's go into Hosea, the 3rd chapter. Hosea chapter 3. Because there's certain things that you read in this Bible, and that tell you what time it is. Hosea chapter 3. And we're going to start reading at verse 4. Because we got a whole lot of lessons, sisters and brothers, we can read a whole lot of history on. I'm telling you, we can lay the facts on the table because we read the book. This King James Version here is the book. I don't like these. You get all these brand new ones, you know. What they call NIV. What does that mean anyway? New International Version written by who? The Gentiles. I can show you in the book where when the Lord comes, he said the Gentiles are going to come and say to the Lord, our fathers have inherited life. That's the one that's teaching you. Think about it. Hosea 3 and verse 4. Go ahead and read. Because he said, we don't see our signs no more. The enemy done burned down our synagogue. Everything, you might have statues and everything. All that's destroyed. And what's going to happen to us? Verse 4. Go ahead and read.
For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king.
Without a king.
And without a prince.
Without a prince.
And without a sacrifice. And without an image.
Without an image.
And without an ephod. And without teraphim.
And without teraphim. That's a cherubim, sisters and brothers. Everything that you make is not an image for you to worship. When Israel built the temple, or either put up the tabernacle, you had around on the wall a cherubim palm tree. Cherubim palm tree. When you got to the veil of the temple that separated the holy from the most holy place, you had cherubim palm. These was our symbols. So we don't have no king. We don't have no princess. I see a lot of brothers running around talking about, well, I'm prince this and that. A lot of sisters got prisons. They talk, well, queen, so-and-so. How you doing, queen? You ain't queen of nothing. In order for you to be a queen or a prince, you have to be a part of the sovereign government. What government do we run? You know, it's just foolish. I look at these people. But I'm nice. I don't say nothing to them. You want me to call you prince? I'll call you prince. He said we're going to dwell many days, didn't he?
Yep.
But he's going to tell you something that's going to date when this thing's going to be over with. Go ahead and read.
Afterward shall the children of Israel return.
Afterward shall the children of Israel return.
And seek the Lord their God. And David their king.
And seek the Lord their God and David their king. Wait a minute. I'm missing something here. And David their king. Why would we seek David? Because that's going to be after the first resurrection. Finish that verse.
And shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days.
That's in the latter days. So if we're going to go to Jerusalem seeking David, the king that God made the king over Israel forever, We must be crazy. David is dead. Unless this is after the first resurrection. That's why it said, in the latter days it's going to come to pass. In the latter days, sisters and brothers.